Hello, everyone, and welcome back to part two of my three-part series on President Benjamin Harrison. I really enjoyed how that last part turned out, and now we're back again with Benjamin Harrison, part two, Electric Boogaloo. Let's get started. When we last left, Harrison was preparing to leave the Union Army and return home to his family in Indianapolis. He had won back his old office of reporter of the Supreme Court for Indiana and was ready to get back to work. In fact, he was so ready to get back to work that he would overwork himself and collapse from exhaustion in 1867, though this would be remedied by a fishing trip. In 1869, he would actually leave his office so he could focus much more on his own legal practice and on his family. During the 1870s, Harrison would continue to focus on his legal career, and in 1871, then President Ulysses S. Grant would give Harrison a big opportunity. During the Civil War, a man by the name of Lambton Milligan was sentenced to death. Why was he sentenced to death, you may ask? Milligan was a Democrat who was associated with the group known as the Sons of Liberty, who opposed the Civil War, and the Sons of Liberty had been accused of partaking in treasonous action against the Union, actions such as starting a riot among troops on furlough, and it was alleged that they were planning an armed insurrection. Milligan would be sentenced to death by military commission in 1864. Milligan would appeal this decision to the Supreme Court, and the court would rule that trials could not take place in a military commission while civilian courts were still operating, and the Supreme Court thus threw out his conviction. Milligan would then proceed to sue the U.S. government for damages. President Grant, who hoped to limit how much the government had to pay out to Milligan, asked Harrison did his legal skills to defend the government in this case. During the trial, Harrison would spend most of his time trying to draw on the collective memory of the war and the idea that the South and the Democrats had caused this war and had been treasonous. And in the end, the jury, while finding in Milligan's favor, would only award him a grand total of, drumroll please, $5. Yeah, only $5, and Harrison, for this effort and success, received quite a bit of national attention and praise from Republicans. Throughout the 1870s, Harrison would attempt to come back by running for office. He would first try by running for governor in 1872, though because Harrison did not have the support of Oliver P. Morton, who had been a leader in the Indiana State Republicans and had served as governor and as senator, Harrison would not win the nomination, and instead it went to Thomas M. Brown, who was favored by Morton. Harrison was dignified in his defeat and would campaign for Brown. Brown, however, would lose the election for governor to future Vice President Thomas A. Hendricks, who would serve during the Cleveland administration. All was not lost for old Benjamin Harrison, though, who would actually end up getting the nomination in 1876. Just not in the way he expected. Godlove Orth, who was the Republican nominee initially in the 1876 election, ended up withdrawing over a scandal involving a treaty with Venezuela. The Indiana State Republican Party immediately set out to find another candidate, and the man that they decided was best for the job was Benjamin Harrison. Harrison was actually away on a trip at the time and would hear the request on his way home. He would accept, and he would face off against Democrat James D. Williams. The campaign was described as kid gloves versus blue jeans, as Harrison, who was wealthy and had been a prominent lawyer from a prominent political family, was seen as an elite as opposed to his opponent James Williams, who was seen as this working class guy who had the support of most working class people and farmers and the like. Harrison, though, would receive much support from the Union veterans and former supporters of his grandfather's campaign, Tippecanoe clubs, as they were called. Harrison would just barely lose the election, but for his effort, he would receive more national fame and attention for coming in to try and save this failing campaign. Right after the election, he would be sent on a speaking tour across the country, and as the decade continued, so would the prospects of Harrison's political career. President Hayes would appoint Harrison to a commission to help improve the Mississippi River, and in 1880 would serve as a delegate to the Republican Convention, where he would support Iroquois candidate James Garfield. Harrison would advise Garfield throughout the campaign and be sent around the country to stump for Garfield. Harrison was so good at stumping that the vice presidential nominee, Chester Arthur, said that they needed General Harrison in New York if they wanted to win. In November of 1880, Harrison would announce his candidacy for the U.S. Senate seat in Indiana and easily win the election in January, and then began to prepare to take his seat in March. During this time, Harrison would also meet with President-elect Garfield, and during this meeting, the President-elect would offer Harrison a cabinet position as a thank you for his hard work on the campaign trail. Harrison, though, declined the offer as he wished to serve his term in the Senate. Harrison would begin his Senate career in March 1881. While in the Senate, Harrison would deal with several issues, ranging from Chinese immigration to Native American affairs, and most importantly to Harrison, pensions for Civil War veterans. In 1882, Harrison would vote against the Chinese Exclusion Act, stating his opposition on constitutional grounds as it violated, in his view, a treaty agreement that the U.S. had with China. Harrison supported civil service reform and wanted to raise tariffs, supporting the establishment of a commission on the issue. He serves as the chairman on the Senate Committee on Territories, urging for several states to be admitted, though the payoff for his chairmanship would come later when he himself was president. Harrison would continue to serve in the Senate until 1887 when he lost re-election. Not long before, Democrats had gained control of the Indiana legislature and had released a map that would make it impossible for a Republican to be elected from Indiana. Harrison would still wage a hard-fought campaign to keep his seat and earned respect for that effort. Having now covered Harrison's Senate career, we will take some time to discuss the election of 1884. This election was a hard one. Republicans had controlled the White House since 1869, and the Democrats were hoping to take it back. The incumbent President Chester Arthur, who had taken over after the death of President Garfield, and who was in failing health, waged no serious campaign for renomination, and this left the Republican nomination wide open. The Republicans would nominate for president James G. Blaine from Maine. Blaine had been a member of Congress, Speaker of the House, and Secretary of State in the Garfield and Arthur administrations before resigning. Blaine was undoubtedly the leader of the Republican Party, and he would easily win the Republican nomination, and his VP nominee would be Senator John Logan from Illinois. The Democrats, who were hoping to retake the White House, would turn to New York Governor Grover Cleveland. Cleveland was considered an honest candidate seeking reform of the government, something that was appealing to many around the nation, especially in the aftermath of the corrupt Grant administration. Cleveland would easily win the Democratic nomination on the second ballot, and the race was on. And in this corner, we have weighing in at 275 pounds, standing at 5'11", the unmarried man from Buffalo, New York Governor Grover Cleveland. And in this corner, also standing at 5'11", and weighing in at an undisclosed amount, known as the Plumed Knight from the state of Maine, James G. Blaine. Alright, I want a nice clean fight. Touch gloves. Alright, let's go, fat boy, come on. Blaine, I don't want to fight you. I wouldn't want to fight me neither. Blaine, we can settle this like gentlemen. I settled like a gentleman with your mother last night. Jerk. Okay, so the 1884 election was scandal-ridden. Democrats tried to paint James G. Blaine as a corrupted tool who only served the rich. And Blaine didn't help in his case by breaking several traditional norms and campaigning. The biggest being that he actively campaigned for the presidency, giving speeches across the country, something that, while common to us today, was not the case in 1884. Cleveland would keep the norm of just staying home and not doing anything. In fact, Blaine's constant campaigning would hurt him when a few weeks before the election, at a campaign dinner, a priest stated that the Democrats were the party of rum, Romanism, and rebellion, and Democrats jumped on this statement to get both the Catholic vote and the Irish vote. Now, Cleveland was not innocent in this election either. Republicans jumped on the fact that Cleveland had had an illegitimate child with a woman named Maria Halpin in the 1870s and used it against him. I won't go into too much detail because I'd like to make a full video on that at some point, but do know that it was a big point of contention that would actually ultimately end up helping Cleveland out in the election, surprisingly. So in November 1884, Cleveland was elected as the 22nd President of the United States, and he won by just a little bit more than Blaine, carrying crucially the states of New York and Indiana. Now, Blaine would be saddened and devastated by this defeat, and decided to go into a self-imposed exile for the next few years. Most importantly, he was in exile ahead of the 1888 election, leaving it unsure if he would even try to seek the nomination. And this fact would make it wide open for whoever wanted to seek it, including Benjamin Harrison. Hey guys, thanks for watching this video. It was another really fun one to make. I liked the little skit I did in there. I hope y'all like it so I can continue to do things like this. please like and subscribe so that way I can do part 3 of this and continue doing my channel. Thanks and have a great day!